Welcome back, Jaguars, to another episode of the JAGcast. I am Nolan Baker, and today I am joined with
Mira,
who is from the Republic of Kosovo in Europe. So for starters, what is life like in Kosovo?
I would say it's very different from here. There are some similarities, of course, but I think there are some struggles that are not faced here. Obviously, America has its own separate struggles, which are not faced in Kosovo, I would say. For example, universal healthcare and free tuition, and just overall less cost for usual things. But then there's also the struggle of high unemployment rates in Kosovo, and now inflation and a lot of corruption.
Yeah.
So it's hard, but it's still not a bad life. It's safe and it's home.
Okay. What are some things that you like about life in America?
Well, for example, in school, I like how organized it is and how many opportunities there are and how you can pick your own subjects.
So it's just more like rigid in Kosovo?
Yes, it's more of a one-type-fits-all, which I don't really like.
Yeah, I can definitely see that being pretty irritating as a student.
Yeah.
And what are some things you miss?
Well, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and I think I miss... So I used to live in a city. I think I miss just being able to go out more often. And the freedom of being able to go to different cities without really needing a ride from people.
Yeah.
So public transportation and some type of traditional dishes that I can't cook myself.
What are some of those?
So there's this thing called Pita. It's like a pie, but with meat or spinach. It's really delicious.
That sounds delicious.
It's just similar things, like burek, mantilla, it's just similar things. They're mainly just dough filled with meat or spinach or cheese. I can't really make those because you have to know how to prepare the dough, and so it's a little difficult.
Yeah, that definitely sounds difficult. Are there any dishes that you tried for the first time here that you like?
Oh, I've tried a lot of food, and before coming here, I thought food was going to be a struggle, but it hasn't been at all.
Well, that's good.
Because I'm a little bit of a picky eater.
Yeah.
But I haven't had the struggle at all. I've tried a lot of food, a lot of it, and I've loved almost everything.
That's really good. Do you have like a favorite dish that's more American?
More American.
Yeah, just like a favorite thing that you tried here for the first time ever.
Ooh, I tried miso soup.
Oh, yeah.
It was delicious. I also tried medium rare steak, which is not a thing in Kosovo because we like our meat really well done.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought about that.
Oh, we like it to the point where it's almost burnt.
Oh.
And I've heard here that's an abomination.
Yeah, I mean, people will get it however they want it, and I know some people who get it like super well done, and I also know some people who get it and they cut into it, and I'm like, I don't know if that was ever on a stove. But I never even thought about that other cultures would cook their meats differently.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
There's also the fact that being an exchange student and being surrounded by other exchange students has led me to being able to try their food from their cultures. Like, I have 2 Thai friends, and I've had them cook food for us, and I tried Thai food, not something you would get in a restaurant, but something from an actual Thai person, just cooking something they really enjoy eating. And I think that was a very unique experience, and I really enjoyed the food.
Good. Yeah. What did you have?
I don't remember exactly. It was some type of noodles, and there was this sauce that you had to add, which just elevated the taste. You couldn't have it without the sauce. I think the dish was named after the sauce because that was the special ingredient.
Interesting. So what are some differences school-wise between here and Kosovo besides just you said it was more of like a one-size-fits-all type program. Like what time did you go to school?
Oh yeah, that's the struggle I had to adjust to in the beginning. Something I actually still have to adjust to. So I'm not a morning person. Waking up at 6 is a struggle for me. Last year, because of COVID, I started school at 9. Because yeah, because I go to a private high school and the dorms were closed because of COVID. So a lot of students had to travel. Some had to travel around 3 hours every morning, just to get to it. So that took a long time. So the school just decided to start later. So I would wake up at 7. I was supposed to catch the 8 a.m. bus, but I would wake up at 7:40 as late as I could.
Yeah. I mean, that's high school at 9. That sounds like a great idea.
Do you want to hear the better part of it?
I do.
It ended at 12:35.
Oh, maybe I didn't want to hear that because I'm very jealous now.
3.5 hours of school. It was great.
Wow.
But now they're back to the usual. So from 8:30 to 3, I guess.
Okay, so that's about the same.
That's only because I went to a private high school, but public high schools in Kosovo actually have 2 shifts. So there's the morning shift and then there's the afternoon shift.
Oh, interesting.
Because they have a lot of students and they can't have all of them at the same time. So they just separate them. So most students typically get 4 hours of school every day.
What are the types of things that you learned in school? With a 3.5, 4 hour day, it seems like there's definitely not as much room as we have here for a variety of subjects.
Well, I thought it was completely normal. I thought it was very doable. I actually liked it way more because when the hours are stretched out to 45 minutes, it's just the same things, but being explained in a slower way.
Yeah, it's a lot of filler.
But in 30 minutes, it was just get to the topic.
Interesting. That seems much more efficient.
And our breaks got shorter because we usually had very long breaks. So 10 minutes between classes and then a 25-minute break for breakfast after the first hour and then 30-minute lunch break. It was just a lot of breaks. It wasn't the classes that were long. So when we had less break, we also had less school and we were fine with it.
Yeah. I wouldn't be complaining too much either. So what activities are you involved in here at school?
I was part of tech crew for a while. I enjoyed it. It was definitely something that I never had tried before.
Yeah. Theater's a very fun environment.
Yeah, it led me to thinking that maybe theater is somewhere where I would like to work.
Interesting. That's very good to hear. I know our theater program is super great.
Yeah, you guys do an amazing job with it.
Well, Mr. Haynes is just great. Great guy. Oh, man, I love Mr. Haynes.
He's very organized.
He is, yeah.
It's really impressive to see how all of that can just
come together
in just a short amount of time.
It really is.
And the actors, they're great.
Yeah, they are. They are. Matilda was fantastic. And so did you work on Matilda or did you work on Puffs too?
I worked on Puffs a lot more than on Matilda. I enjoyed Puffs a lot since I'm a Harry Potter fan.
Yeah. That's interesting too, that Harry Potter has such a wide reach. Did your school in Kosovo ever do any theater productions? You said that it was kind of a new thing for you?
Yeah, it was very new. My school doesn't really host a lot of activities like these. We hosted mainly competitions, which I didn't want to be part of because they were focused on very scientific subjects, which there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not my type of
makes sense.
Not my type of preference, I would say.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What were you involved in back in Kosovo?
I tried a few clubs. They weren't very active though. I know in 10th grade I was part of a book club, which was it was fun. We got to go to the bookstore a couple times. And
That does sound fun.
we would gather and have coffee and snacks and read, which, well, I think the point of a book club isn't supposed to be reading together. It's supposed to be discussing the book, which is something I didn't really agree with. But it was still fun to just gather with your friends and do something together.
That does sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Kosovo is in Europe. It's not very far from Ukraine at all.
Yeah, two countries.
Yeah. Which I think the equivalent distance is from here to the coast of Texas, just in approximate distance. So it's not far at all. And the Russia-Ukraine conflict has been going on for almost 10 years now. So how has it affected you or the people that you know?
If you come from that part of Europe, just be prepared to live in chaos and conflict, I would say.
Interesting.
If you come from the eastern part of Europe, it's never a stable life. So it wasn't something that we weren't used to. I mean, mainly we focused on the state of my country. We didn't really think about Ukraine because it's not worth it. Because there's a running joke about southeastern Europe or the Balkans, and it's just they'll never know peace. There will never be peace in that part of Europe.
Yeah, because I mean, the Balkans have been. Everyone knows the reputation of the Balkans. It's been like that for like 100 years. Like personally, it hasn't been a huge deal.
Well, I know it's been going on for some 8 years now, I think.
Yeah.
So we weren't really worried about it. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but as an Albanian person, we tend to not really get along with Slavic people. So Ukrainians are Slavic, and Russians are Slavic, Serbians are Slavic. We tend to not really get along with them that well because of all the conflict and all the wars. So we didn't really care about it as much, I would say.
There's a lot of history there.
Even though it's a bad thing. We just focused on our country. But now that it's been getting a lot worse. I was stressed out at first because, well, it's known that Serbia is an ally of Russia, and we're not part of NATO, and we had a war only 20 years ago. I thought some conflict might rise up again, but now I've just figured out that me stressing about it is not going to do anything. It's just going to harm me. So I decided to just live my life day by day and focus on the present, as cliche as it sounds. But it's just...
No, I don't think it sounds cliche at all. I think that's a very like normal interpretation. I think that a lot of people would be doing that. I mean, I myself, I wouldn't want to be focused on it the entire time. It's a very big deal, a big thing to be thinking about all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of grew up expecting war to happen anytime, so I'm not really surprised. Don't know. Again, if you're from Eastern Europe, it's just you kind of expect it.
So, what are some things that Americans or anyone in other countries can do to help with everything going on?
Well, there's been a lot of people helping, and I really like the support. I wasn't alive during the war in my country, obviously, but if people did the same, then I would feel great. we're also very grateful toward America for, in some way, saving us. I don't know what else you could do to help Ukraine, I would say. Something that really actually bugs me a little bit is how people are just so eager to help Ukraine. But they forget that there's been wars in the Middle East for decades.
Yeah, that's been I've seen a lot of people talking about how there was the huge news buzz of Israel and Palestine just a few months ago, and suddenly that's gone away with now people are on Russia and Ukraine, and a lot of people are wondering if the same thing is going to happen where it kind of gets pushed under the radar and just another conflict shows up.
Well, I think a very big factor there is that it's Russia, and it's a great superpower.
Yeah.
And the Cold War and everything, we all know that there's always been conflict between the US and Russia.
Yeah. Any chance we get to say, hey, Russia's doing something wrong, we'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now Russia's doing something wrong, and everyone is focusing on that. But the U.S. did some wrong things in the Middle East, but we're not really focusing on that.
Right.
So I think the media likes to portray the U.S. as the hero.
Yeah.
Which is not the case.
Yeah, it's propaganda.
Yeah.
It's not.
Still, I would choose the U.S. over almost dictatorship.
Is that what it's like in? Well, how would you describe the government in Kosovo?
Oh, we're a democratic country, I would say. Still, don't know if I really believe in it. There's not a lot of... It's not communist. It's not... if I'm in power, you do what I say. You still have a little bit of voice, but it's not really there.
I understand. So it's somewhat superficial.
You have a say in some things, and in some things you don't. And then if you're in power, then you're great. You're set to go. You can hire people that you know.
Very interesting.
And it just hurts to see that so many people are just leaving my country. But I understand, because people want to live, not survive.
Right. Right, that's a very good way of putting that. What are some common misconceptions you want to clear up just about everything going on in the Balkans area with conflicts now and in the past, and just some things that people talk about but don't really know what they're talking about?
Well, a lot of Americans don't really know about the Balkans as much. I think a lot of Americans think that any country outside the US and Western Europe is poor. And yes, we may be struggling, but we're not a third world country. We may have not so stable economy, but we're still not dying of starvation and poverty. And I think just being more realistic and seeing things in a more open-minded way would just help to understand people that are not American.
Very good. Yeah, I see that a lot in like movies and TV, and every time that like an American character like goes to another country, it's like, oh wow, this country is, this country needs our help. And I've always wondered, like, well, why only show that part when there are so many parts that aren't, like that. And it kind of makes me feel like, as an American, it kind of makes me sad, because I feel like it's kind of pushing the idea that, like, oh, hey, look, according to the show, other countries need our help. And I can kind of see that with, with the whole Russia and Ukraine situation. There's a lot of talk about, oh, what is President Biden going to do? What are we going to do? What is our military going to do? So is that, As a non-American, is that also like, is that evident in Kosovo too? Does media in Kosovo kind of act like that?
Yeah, they like to shift the perspective. They like to put the eyes on America and what Biden is gonna do, whatever. I think that really surprised me about the conflict is, didn't Putin think that the whole world would try to help Ukraine?
Yeah.
So what's your next plan? Do you just plan to nuke the whole world?
Yeah, that is a good question.
Anyway, we really admire the president. He's been doing great.
The Ukrainian president?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very patriotic. How he's been fighting for his country and just in the front lines doing what a good leader should. I mean.
Yeah. So about the conflict, there's something that's been going on in Kosovo because people are not being very empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Because after our war, the Albanians in Macedonia, so northern Macedonia, there are some cities in Macedonia that were originally ours. The names are still Albanian.
Mm-hmm.
So some Albanians wanted their rights, so they rioted and protested and kind of started a war. And then Macedonia wanted to shut them down, stop whatever they were doing, so they didn't really have a lot of aid. And I think Ukraine helped them. So that's why Albanians right now are not being very empathetic towards them. But there's also the other side of empathy, that we know what you're going through because we've been in the same place 20 years ago.
Right.
Having to flee your country with a suitcase, just.
Yeah, that's crazy to even think about. I don't think that any American can really fully understand like the terror of war.
Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't get to live through it, even though I've lived through the consequences of a war. Because I was born 5 years after the war ended.
Oh, so you were still feeling kind of the waves of.
Oh yeah, when I was born, my country was not even a country. It was still, what is this place?
Oh wow! So it was just kind of
It was free, but it was there were a lot of foreign governments and foreign people just ruling over the country, I guess.
So it was like a big power grab. It was very interesting. But you said now you have a president?
Yes.
Okay. And a democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is more stable than it was.
Yeah, I would say so.
But there's still some shakiness in.
Yeah, definitely. As it goes with any new country. We're just 14 years old, the country, I mean.
Wow. That is crazy to think that pretty much every student at this school is older than the whole country.
Yeah, we've been independent since 2008, and we recently turned 14, which is really weird that I'm older than my own country.
That is an odd thing to think about.
It is. It's a weird concept.
Huh.
But then I just think of it as this place has been here since the formation of Earth, so.
Yeah.
This is just
a
political.
country is just a political thing. It's a line drawn on a map.
Yeah.
But the land has always been there. It's always going to be there, and I think a country really is a people, and it's a group of. It's a community, and like you were talking about empathy. I think that is probably the number one most important thing that anyone could be thinking about in a time like this.
Yeah. Definitely.
Just helping others and feeling love towards those that are struggling everywhere, not just in Ukraine, not just in Russia.
See, a lot of people in my country don't like the government of Ukraine, for example, because of the things that they have done against us or whatever, but it's still the people who are suffering, not the government officials.
Right.
They're probably not even the country right now, except the president, who, I don't know, I respect him because he refused to leave the country, which is just a very brave act.
Yeah.
But the people are suffering, and they don't deserve to. They've done nothing wrong. This is just a political play. So that's why we're still empathetic, even though it hurts. But still, it's the people. It's a crime against people.
Yeah, I think that's a very very interesting thing to bring up, because a lot of companies are canceling their services in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Like Netflix shut down in Russia. I believe it was eBay can't buy or sell anything.
I read they can't even use the credit cards outside of Russia.
Yeah, which is crazy because, like you said, that's hurting the people. The government officials, they're fine, and they're the ones who are the, doing everything. So
see, I would really like to know what the Russian people think about this, since they've been fed propaganda for almost a decade now.
Yeah.
And there's been people that tried to oppose it and try to protest against it, but they were sent to jail.
Yeah, which is, I don't think anyone is immune to propaganda. I think everyone's got these views on their country that is probably wrong, but in this day and age, there's no real way to say that or to like be able to tell. So yeah, you really just have to have you just have to trust that people are doing what they think is right, even if what they think is right is actually wrong and fed to them by their government. And
it all goes down to what George Orwell has written about.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy that he was so right so long ago.
He's way ahead of his time. I feel like he just predicted everything that was going to happen. Just the Animal Farm, 1984. It's just...
Yeah, it's...
The guy's a genius.
Yeah, it's crazy how precise he was, like, so long before any of it even happened.
All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than the others.
Yeah, that is a... Wow, that is a very strong quote for this. Okay. Well, I think we are about out of time. Once again, for JAG TV and the JAGcast, I am Nolan Baker.
And this is Mira.
Thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.